I'm Jadina N. Gustav Esquire. You can call me Attorney J. And welcome to Divorcing with Faith and Purpose. Um, I will be your professor for the next 6 weeks. And I just wanted to start off with one, giving everyone an opportunity to go to the link in my bio if you can and download this because we're going to be going over your your syllabus, okay? So you can go ahead and do that. If not, if you want to stay focused, that's not a problem. So let me just introduce myself. So, a brief introduction of who I am since you are agreeing to be here, listen to me, and receive from me on this subject. So, this course is Divorce Like a Boss 101 and Divorce Like a Boss, but the subtext is Divorcing with Faith and Purpose. And why would I be drawn to a class like this and be teaching a course like this? I am born and raised in Miami, Florida, the 305 for those of you that are from there. And I have my background is in the church. So I am a preacher's kid, no comments, no bad comments, okay? And my grandfather, so generations of pastors, but not just being a preacher's kid, but understanding throughout my life the importance of faith and being a believer in what Jesus did for my life has guided me since the time I was a child. So my parents are still married. They've celebrated their 51 years of marriage. I am the youngest of six children, and I attended school in South Florida and college in Tampa, Florida, law school in Virginia Beach, Florida. Now, the law school that I chose to go to was very strategic and specific that I wanted a faith-based law school because I wanted to make sure that when I practiced law that I was able to integrate the word of God with what I was doing, making sure it was always aligned because that was very important and it still is very important for me. So that continued throughout my life. My husband, I am married, as you guys can see. I am married and we have four beautiful children. But the way that I met my husband, we were raised in the same church. So his family attended my father's church and we just grew together. College is when we actually started dating and we got married after I graduated law school. Since then, we continue to do life together, do business together, and everything like that, raise our four wonderful children. And also, my practice. So, what did I do when I got into law? First, I started off as a prosecutor, no judgment. So, I forgot to start off that this is a no judgment zone, okay? So, no judgment. But yes, I was a prosecutor, and I was very proud to be a prosecutor because being a prosecutor with my skin tone, looking how I look, it was important that representation mattered in the courtroom. And for anyone, you can look up Jenna 6. And if you look up Jenna 6, you will understand that I became a prosecutor after hearing another prosecutor come on to a radio show while I was in law school. And that person was explaining the reason why the six black boys were charged as adults versus the six white boys who were charged as juvenile was because they could not relate to who they were. The prosecutor was a white man in the South, and he treated them as adults. So that's what led me into my career as a prosecutor. I've been able to keep a lot of our young black men and women with without keep them from getting a record because I would step into my defense counsel hat and I would have to do what I had to do to make sure our people are protected. And even with this course, one of the main things that you are going to learn is divorce, even though it is a personal matter, it is still important that we recognize that our community is built on the way that we interact with one another, the way that we view ourselves, and the way that we view one another. Huh? Okay, now you should hear me perfect. You probably heard me before, but just to make sure going forward, you hear me clearly. So yeah, it is important, even in the context of divorce, making sure that we are keeping our community in mind. Okay. So from there, I prosecuted for a few years. And then I ended up leaving prosecution. And then I started my own practice, my husband and I. This practice was focused on family law first and estate planning. We branched out into now serving as general counsel. It is the Seju Gustav law firm, and we specialize in estate planning, asset planning, business protection, and also getting procurements for people and businesses, and definitely family law. One of the things we just celebrated over a decade in existence, our law firm. And with that, we announced that we have athletic representation as well. So that's just things that I'm proud of, and that's the experience. We've started businesses, we've represented businesses in litigation. I am a litigation attorney, and representing families, that was the big deal, because even as a prosecutor, I worked in the domestic violence unit. The domestic violence unit, I worked prosecuting the cases, having to talk to the victims, working with the victims, where sometimes by the time you get to them, they've changed their mind. They've realized that, hey, I don't want to move forward anymore. We've reconciled. We're fine, which is okay. But a lot of them were remaining out of fear, out of the unknown. And we don't want that to be the case, because what happens is you end up having that person as a victim on your desk again. And that's not ideal for the individual, families, or even our community. So I took that experience into the practice of family law, where now I'm representing men and women who are divorcing, custody matters, and what happened during that representation. So maybe after 5 or 6 years of representing, and I just ended up, it wasn't that we advertised this way, but I just ended up attracting women, and not just any women, more women that were executives in their corporate jobs, people who on a daily basis are making big decisions for multi-million dollar companies. They have employees underneath them, but once they start the divorce process, they would be completely overwhelmed with the process. And I would end up having to stop sometimes during, legal talk, right? Because we have to go through the legal process, because of how overwhelmed they were, how emotional they were. And that ended up leading to, in 2020, I wrote my international best-selling book, Divorce Like a Boss, which this course is an offshoot of that book. And the book is, in that book also is a text that we suggest. It is not required, but we suggest, because it will help you as we go week to week. And then next, I'm going to go over our syllabi and make sure that you know what to expect in this course and how we are going to move forward. So going back, just giving you the background so that you understand as we go through this course, where am I coming from? Where is all of this based on? And having this conversation. So over a decade, going on a decade and a half, I have been in that family law space, but I had a personal experience that only a few years ago, even after writing the book, I recognized that played in the book itself, and the subtitle that I ended up selecting, which is The Ultimate Tactical Guide to End a Toxic Marriage, emphasis on toxic marriage and fulfill your purpose. Because like I said, as a servant of God, I know that I am called to help people, specifically women, recognize that God still sees you. God is still using you. Your purpose did not end when you consider divorce. The fact that you're here watching this right now is because you're either in the middle of a divorce, at the tail end, or considering divorce. And a lot of things that keep you trapped, that keep you in a toxic environment. We know that there's annoyance, there's irritation, there is mistakes, but you realize I use the word toxic, meaning something that can slowly or quickly kill you if you remain in that environment. So those are the environments that we're talking about and we're addressing throughout this course and even in the book itself. But let me give you a little story. When I was younger, I My parents, they are Haitian. So I forgot to mention that. I'm Haitian Bahamian. I'm Bahamian on my maternal side. And my grandmother, born and raised in the Bahamas. My my mother's father, though, was a Haitian, and my father, both of his parents were Haitian, but I was born in Miami, Florida. My parents would not even argue in front of us. I can tell you, I have not, all of my years growing up, have not seen my parents argue till now. They're always together. However, there was an incident where and fun fact, because I say you have a fact about yourself, I ended up burning down my family's house at the age of 8. I know it's a long story. We'll get into it another day. But I ended up going to live with my older sister, and I did witness some domestic violence. I did not realize until a few years how I internalized that, and it put something inside of me because at that time I was helpless. I was little. I couldn't help her. I couldn't do anything about it. But it put something inside me that this will never happen if I am able to do something about it. And that's why I'm in front of you right now. This is me doing something about your toxic environment. This is me doing something about people who are helpless, who may be trapped or feel trapped. You're not trapped, feel trapped in a situation, but you don't know how to get from point A to point B to successfully navigate divorce while keeping your purpose in focus, while understanding that God still has a plan for you. The plan that he had from the time that you were born, it's not gone. It's still here. Divorce is not the end of your story. It is a part of your story, but it is not the end of your story. So that's a little bit about me. Obviously, throughout the course, I will be, whenever it's relevant, adding a little bit more background about myself and as it applies. But let's go over the syllabus, okay? So first things first. Oh, this is definitely out of order. First things first, we have our course title, my name, the correct spelling of my name, and also that we are starting on today. Now, the videos will be on Mondays, but on Thursdays, we will have a live. The only way to really get into the live is if you register. So you want to make sure that you register. How do you register? You use the link in the bio. You're invited into the class, and then you get a private link so that you can join the Zoom call. You also join a private group, but we're going to get into that. Okay. So make sure that you have a copy of the syllabus and you will be able to stay abreast of what we're doing, okay? So this is the course description. This 6-week transformative course taught by myself, Attorney guides participants through the process of ending a toxic marriage, stepping into a future filled with purpose based on my internationally acclaimed best-selling book, Divorce Like a Boss. BOSS is an acronym from Beyond Our Shackles of Shame. We're going to get into that because a lot of us are shackled. A lot of us, embarrassment, fear is keeping us in these circumstances, but we're going to talk about it. This course combines legal insight, emotional support, and life planning to empower you who are facing or contemplating divorce. What are some of the objectives? Because, we always like to know, what's the point? What am I going to be able to get out of this course? Awesome. If you have it, you can follow with me, or I'll just read it out to you. So course objectives. First is identify the religious belief that make people feel unusable by God after divorce, keeping them stuck in toxic marriages. Affirm that God's plan and purpose for your life remain intact, regardless of your marital status. Understand how divorce can be a strategic point of leverage rather than a setback. Emphasize the importance of repentance and resilience and walking confidently in your calling. Provide tools and guidance. So when I say tools and guidance, legal tools and guidance. Now, disclaimer, though I am an attorney that practice family law, I am not serving as an attorney right now. I am not your representation. I am not giving you advice, but this is for educational purposes, anything that we discuss in this course. and empower you to show up fully for what you are called to do and fulfill your divine purpose while successfully navigating the divorce process. I will be providing legal insight, um, letting you know strategies that are usually used in the courtroom, strategies on preparing even before a divorce is ever filed, making sure that you understand how judges see this process, how there's a policy in law that you are coming up against, even when you are in a divorce process. What does the numbers look like? Child support, alimony. We're going to talk about all of those things, but we have to do first things first, okay? I want everyone to remember this course is a judgment-free zone, okay? No judgment, no calling people out, no degrading people when they're providing comments or sharing their stories or giving responses to questions and things like that we have. We want it to be an environment where you feel empowered, you feel supported, and you feel ready for the next step. Okay, so week one, we are going to recognize toxicity in relationships. So though this is day one, we are not going to really get into it. The next thing I'm going to do after this is going to kind of break down how we're going to get to each week. Okay, so I'm recognizing toxicity in relationships. So this is an introduction and understanding some of the impacts of toxic marriages, overcoming that shame and fear tied to divorce, and understanding that divorce does not disqualify you. Okay. Second week, we're going to go into God's plan, being intact, and preparation. So, what are the preparations that you need to do socially, that you need to do spiritually, mentally, physically to get you to that place of being able to go through the divorce process? Week three, and if you get the book, you follow through, you'll recognize that there is a method to the madness, okay? There is a method to this order in which we are teaching, because I have learned that if these things are not in place prior to the legal process starting, it doesn't end as well as the individual would like, or myself as your representation or any attorney would really like for it to go. Okay. So emotional resilience. So, if you have the book, that we have a whole chapter on emotions. Emotions are not bad, right? It is expected, but we do not want to use it as the guiding principle of getting us through the divorce process. So we talk about that in depth in the chapter on divorce, and then we definitely have to have one of our lectures on there. Then we're going to start jumping into the legal, okay? We're going to jump into the legal because you'll be ready to get into that area, right? So we're going to start navigating divorce legally. Detailed look at legal strategies and preparing for potential court processes, okay? Financial and practical planning. So financial planning for life during and after divorce. That is key because a lot of people don't think about that part, but that is an important part of the divorce process. Have you even thought about the financials? Some people just fear it so much, they don't address it, but we're not going to do that. We are going to address it, and we're going to make sure that you're secure. We're going to make sure you know exactly what needs to be done financially. What does it look like? Now, everyone is different where they are financially, but it doesn't mean that you can't be prepared for your financial landscape before and after, and building a future aligned with God's plan financially. Okay, now moving forward. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that legal process, what it looks like, how do we get there, and making sure we recenter, refocus on building a future aligned with God's plan, fully embracing that purpose. Because I know a lot of people may not, but I'll wait. We'll get into the acronym. And then overcoming judgment and criticism. Because once the divorce is over, the process for the emotional side, the social side, it just begins, right? When people find out that you're officially divorced, that's its whole other thing. And then what about your spouse and how they respond to it? Where we get through the process, but then they start changing up on you. And what do we do with that? Okay. So finally, we have our course features. So if you do not sign up with your email, then you will have access to the lectures. However, downloadable resources, guided exercises, you will not be able to access that unless you have our email, because we will email that to you. Live sessions, so our weekly webinars with Q&A. So you're able to ask specific questions and I will be responding to your questions, but you do need to sign up for this. And then community support, so access to a private forum for peer interaction and support. So you definitely want to make sure that you use the link in my bio, wherever it is, down, up, wherever it is, so that you have all of these awesome things. We also list the suggested reading. With the suggested reading, it is in paperback, digital, and audio. So for those of you like me that love your audiobooks, and I am the one narrating the book, so it is by the author. While you're driving, you're listening, you're able to rewind, go to the next chapter. So then you can get it in audio version as well, digital, and you will find all versions on my website, attorneyjcoach.com, and everywhere that you listen to audiobooks, Amazon, all those places. I know a lot of people, they don't want to have to shop there, so that's why we have it available, so that you don't have to go anywhere else. You can go straight to our website and you can download the audiobook and, just have it on your own computer or wherever you want to have it. And then you listen to it as you need to without even having to go into a separate app. So I think that that's awesome. Okay. So if you had not officially enrolled, make sure that you enroll today, to step into your empowerment and clarity and divorce like a boss. Okay. All right. Because we know that God still needs you to show up for your calling. All right. So I am going to finish off by sharing with you. I know this is probably the opposite way, but we'll make sure to adjust that by the time you're watching this. So, brief overview of how this is going to go and how do I break down this process. So I use the acronym WRAP. Okay. We're not rapping. We can, if it helps. But we break down the process in a formula that I've created. I find that this is the best way to address it. It is not listed in the book. This is only a part of the course. Okay. So WRAP. WRAP is reality and reason. A is analysis, and P is process. So what do I mean by WRAP? We're going to definitely get into this throughout the course, but let me just give you a brief overview of what we mean when I say reality and reason, analysis and process. So all of these things go hand in hand. So reality and reason means you have to address those things that are a reality for you now. What am I talking about? We have to address those things that is keeping you in this marriage. How did you get to this place in the marriage? Because we know that we're real good at saying everything that the person did wrong and maybe acknowledging a little bit of our input into that. But let's be honest. There are circumstances where you knew before the marriage, God gave you a sign. God told you straight out that this is not it. But for some reason or another, no judgment, you still moved forward. If you read the book, then you know that I use the reference of the broken toilet. Obviously, I'm not saying that your marriage is at the level of a broken toilet, but it's a metaphor. It's a way that I'm able to unite us in a common example. And we understand that divorce, even considering it, is literally like the passing of a family member. It brings on a grief like no other. It truly breaks us, but not to kill us, not to take us out, but to build us back up, right? Because God is still in our lives and guiding us. So when we can acknowledge, how did you get to this place? Why are you now facing divorce? When we can get to the place where we recognize, where are we with self-compassion? Have you forgiven yourself? Have you forgiven the other person? Because the emotional toll that divorce itself, that the legal process requires, you need to be okay with yourself. You need to have compassion for you. You need to also consider your purpose. What are you called to do? What is that one thing that you know for sure? Whether you get paid, you're not getting paid. If you do that, you can wake up at any moment and get that done. What is that thing? If we can keep that thing in focus throughout this process, the legal process of divorce, it literally serves as the light at the end of the tunnel to get you from where you are to where you need to be. Recognizing that you are not a failure if you are at this place listening to me now and considering divorce. You are not a failure. You are a child of God that is still called to your purpose in God. But we have to recognize that under reality and reason. We have to recognize that, yes, there are things that could have been better. There are probably even more steps that you could have taken. But two people have to be together and agree to move forward in order for it to work. You cannot just be at a place where I'll do anything, but the person is like, I'll do some things. That's not the same thing. And that is why a lot of people end up stuck. Then there are those of us like myself, and I have also, I forgot to mention, if you check out my YouTube and also in the link, you'll see our podcast, a podcast that I started called Faces of Divorce, where you get the real life stories of individuals who face divorce. And you also will have individuals that I interview that are adults now, but they were children of divorce. And they talk about the impact that divorce had on them. The goal of the podcast, Faces of Divorce, is literally to help us divorce different. The only way you're going to divorce different is if you can successfully navigate RAP. If you cannot go through this process in any way, even if you're not in this course, but there are a lot of people who've done it, right? Without having the acronym that I've created. But if you are unable to properly assess on your own the fact that you still are a child of God, you are called by God, assess the fact that my life is not ending right now. This is a chapter that I wish I never had to write, but I am going to write this chapter with my head held high, with a clear mind, but with purpose also at the end of this chapter. That is going to make a difference for you. And I want you to be able to do that because we need you, right? And when I talk about community, I'm talking about our community. The divorce process cares nothing about the community. The divorce process is law. It's legal. It's black and white. So it tells you what the policy is, tell you what you can do, what you can't do. And then at the end of this process, there's a judge that again is going to reinforce that you have to fit within that process. It does not consider the reason and reality. It only considers the analysis, meaning that analysis is the decisions that you have to make throughout the legal process that makes sense to be done prior to getting into the legal process. But the law is not worried about that. But you should be worried about that because the more grounded you are, you don't tear your spouse down. Your spouse will not be tearing you down. We are lifting each other up because our children, our generations, our future, our existence rely on the way in which we interact with one another. And that is one of my main purposes in all that I do under the umbrella of Divorce Like a Boss. Okay. So reason and reality is going to bring us to that place where we make sure we're okay. We make sure that our support systems are in place because this process is brutal. Okay. It can be brutal. It can be a little easier, obviously for you because you're taking this course, but it can be brutal. There's difficult days. Who do you have in your corner that you can rely on? For those of you with minor children, who can take the children on a day that you have to go to court? Because after that hearing, you may not be in your best mood and you don't want to respond to people and especially your wonderful children with the annoyance and anger that you're working and processing through. Who can take help you when you need a moment just to lay in your closet and cry? Who do you have there? Who do you have as a prayer partner that can step in and pray when you can't pray during this process? So reality is really, really important for you to successfully navigate the process. Okay. When I successfully, that means that you are not broken. You don't feel worse off. Now, obviously, the breaking of the marriage will cause heartbreak, but I'm talking about being worse off after the process is done. Because after it is done, you're now headed towards your purpose. After it is done, you are accomplishing every day what God has called you to, because we need you. The community needs you. The world needs you, and the kingdom of God needs you as well. So what is analysis? So analysis are things like child support, alimony. Are you even going to ask for alimony? Are we going to use alimony as a strategic asset to leverage maybe, what do you call it? To leverage the retirement. Maybe you want to keep your retirement, so you want to sell the house, let everybody get a lump sum, and you leave my retirement alone. So it's really making the plan. So now we're forming a plan for how are we going to address this legal process. What are your circumstances now? What is it going to look like after the divorce? You have to plan for that. Do you even want the person's retirement? Do you make more money? So you need to find a way to keep more of what you have by giving them what they want, but strategically, right? Not in a way that puts you in a worse off position. Sometimes peace of mind for some clients was, I don't want anything. We just go our separate ways. Even though I have a right to some things, I don't want it. But it depends on you. There's no cookie cutter divorce. It doesn't matter with your brother, your cousin, your sister, your neighbor, your boss, what they went through. Even if you had a twin, and I put in the book, even if you have a twin sister, you guys married twins, you live in the exact same house, twin houses, your children are twins, you raise your kids, you speak the same thing, your processes will still be different. We have to understand that. So plan for your divorce process by doing the analysis part. And we have to think about everything: vacations, holidays, birthdays. Do you have religious beliefs and your spouse doesn't? What are we going to do? How are we going to answer the necessary questions that are going to come up in the legal process? That is going to be important, and that is what we're going to address. But unless you have gone through the process of addressing, acknowledging, and healing with your reality and the reason why you're here right now, you won't be able to do the analysis properly, because you're going to be doing the analysis with revenge in mind or with pain in mind, or you're going to shrink back and just let the person have whatever they want because that's how it's been in the marriage. But no, you're going to step up, and the same way how you stepped up to get married and you were planning and you were a part of it and you knew exactly how everything was going to go. I need you to be there for your marriage, for the divorce process as well. You showed up to the wedding, you showed up in the relationship to even get to that place. And now that it's ending, you have to show up too. And that's why RAP is important. Reality and reason help you to analyze and ask the right questions. In chapter 8 of the book, and I'm going to show you a copy of the book. I know I'm talking about it, but I'm going to show you a copy of the book to make sure you get the right one for the course. But I talk about the right questions. Sometimes we get into the legal process too early. We have not asked the right questions. We don't even know the questions, the answers that are important prior to getting into the legal process. So I'm going to make sure that we do that. Like some of the questions really was, what alimony can I get? There's 5 to 6 different type of alimonies. There's durational, there's permanent, there's bridge the gap. There's so many different alimonies. So you need to know that before you get into the legal process. You need to know what some of the words like discovery mean. Like discovery, is that a channel? No, it's actually a term of art in the legal process when you're in a divorce. That means that person is able to ask you for information, so much information that you probably don't want to disclose. But how do we deal with that? What do I give? What don't I have to give? So we answer those questions so that we're making sure an analysis is being completed the right way to make sure you're ready for that legal process. And then we get to P, which is the process. The legal process is codified, meaning it's written out in your state statute. So you can read it and it actually tells you, like, for example, one of the important things is for custody matters, visitation matters. It had across the nation, and I didn't add that part. With family law, I have not only practiced in Florida, which we have now open offices in Georgia as well. But I have practiced family law all over the nation because even when you're an attorney, you can represent someone in another state if a local attorney allows you to use their number, and then you guys kind of work together. So that's a whole other thing. But across the nation, there are factors that the judge is going to consider when it comes to visitation, when it comes to how custody is going to be determined. And you need to know that before you get into here. So we can check off what are all of the things that go in your favor and what are some things that don't go in your favor, and how do we strategically spin that to make sure we have things going in your favor. Okay, so if you want to do some pre-homework, you can go ahead and look up what are the visitation and custody factors in my state, okay, for divorce. I want you guys to do that, and let's see who our A students are. Our teachers' pets. Be a teacher's pet. I always was, and it's fine. It works. But yes, the legal process is something that is already outlined. But I want to make sure that before you even get here, you are ready so that we wrap it up, right? Pun intended. So to wrap it up, we are going to discuss divorcing with faith and purpose as is outlined in the weekly breakdown, the objectives that we have in the class, and also making sure that we properly navigate so that when you get to the legal process, even if you're in it right now, we can still do some work. We can still do some work. Now, am I available for one-on-ones? People will ask that. Yes. If you sign up, but you have to sign up, guys, because I'm still a practicing attorney. I'm a wife, a mother, and we want to make sure that I can give it the necessary attention that you need. So yes, you can submit questions within the classroom. Once you sign up, you'll be able to submit questions in the classroom so that when we get together on Thursdays at 7, I would address those questions first, and then we'll open up the floor to answer other questions. You have to have your question in by 5 p.m. Wednesday, okay? 5 p.m. Wednesday, so that we can address it first. Now, can you come with questions in our private Zoom? Of course you can, but I'm going to do it in order. So for those that submitted their questions beforehand, I'm going to answer those first, okay? And then we will go forward into, based on how much time we have left, we will go forward into answering some other questions. For those who like my services, like, well, are you even still practicing? What are you doing? Yes. So I've also formed what we call Divorce Lab Institute, and that is a program that has now been created to support individuals in a group setting. And it is an intensive with other professionals who have signed on to come along and provide the support that you need through this process. So this educates you on the process, right? It's helping you, and you can do DIY. But then in the Divorce Lab Institute, the program, it actually is a 7-week program where you are connected with a personal trainer and a health. So this is a dietitian and personal trainer. You also go through a self-compassion session to build you up. So kind of like rap, but a little bit more intensive. You also have the therapists, so licensed therapists and psychologists that are part of it. We also have a licensed certified financial planner, and she is no joke. Listen, she make your money make money, whether you start with $200 or nothing at all. She makes your money make money. And that is important because a lot of times people are so scared to leave a toxic environment because they say they don't know where they stand financially. So we made sure that this program had everybody that you need. We also have the education department and segment in that. And that is where you're being taught a skill. So there's a lot of us that know that we should be working for ourselves. We're called to certain things, and we have people that are coming to instruct within that session on people who had questions about Forex, had questions about business credit. How do I get business credit? How do I get loans? How do I get myself set for my business, even if I'm just starting it today? So that's a good thing. Obviously, you're going to have me, and I will be doing the legal session. So we will be getting into it a little bit more in depth. We're looking at documents and we're going over petitions and your financials and everything. So we really break it down to make sure that you're ready by the end of that course to file your paperwork or refile it, change it up and everything. And so to learn more about that, it is divorcelabinstitute.com. But on my page on Attorneyj Coach, I provide one-on-one coaching so that some people, it's more difficult for some than others. I get that. I understand that. And you may need a little bit more handhold. You may need maybe one session where we're together and we're making sense of your specific circumstances. In a group setting, we can't get as specific as we would want to. But if you're like, no, I want a one-on-one with you so that you can help me go through this, not necessarily represent me, but just help me put things together. Let me wrap. Let's wrap, right? Let's wrap. So yes, I have that as well, but all of that is on my website, Attorneyj Coach. The website is actually at the bottom on your syllabus, is at the bottom of the page on each of the pages. And those are all the ways that you connect with me. Make sure the link in the bio, you register. So fill out the registration form. Once you fill out the registration form, you will receive an email. That email will introduce you to the course. It will give you the link to join our private course so that you are there on lives. The lives will not be on TikTok. The lives will be on a private Zoom. You will be added to the community and we're able to continue to communicate. You guys can support one another, right? So let's get going. This is your intro video. And the next thing you will get is week 1 lecture. Thank you for your attention. I am honored to be your professor, that you chose me to instruct you, to help you, to support you throughout this process. And I'll see you in the next class.